Joining us now to break down the Republican legislative agenda is Representative Russ Fulcher, the congressman serving the 1st District of Idaho. So, Congressman, over the past couple of days, we've seen the Republican Party make its case to the American electorate, not just for President Trump, but for the Republican agenda more broadly. We've heard from some of your colleagues. We've heard some activists as well. But is the Republican Party making a good pitch to the American electorate about what you and your colleagues would do with a controlled chamber?
I think so, but how this whole thing is playing out is not as anticipated. This race is clearly going to be Trump versus Trump. No one is extremely passionate about Joe Biden. And so the issues have really circled around the president. Those who love him. Those who hate him are the ones that will be voting for Biden. But this ultimately is going to be Trump versus Trump.
And I think we've seen that already. For example, when the president goes down in the polls, it's usually because of something that he has done, not necessarily something that Joe Biden has done. And in fact, a big part of this convention has been the idea that the Democratic Party did not put forth policy proposals as much as they did. It was more so an emotional argument that they're making. But right now we hear a lot about some of your Democratic colleagues talking about the idea of mail-in voting. We saw Postmaster General DeJoy come in front of the House earlier this week, but they're really trying to expand mail-in voting. Is that something that you think can even be done through Congress, or do you think this is more of a political talking point for the time being?
I think it's a political talking point because even if we threw endless resources to the post office between now and November, the chances of them getting anything changed with their infrastructure are very, very small. So I think that's a smokescreen. It's another one of those things that is just being used as a distraction because they don't have a solid candidate. And this is another one of those things that is being floated out there because it takes away from the primary issues. The Democrats don't have any positive policy. They don't have any positive track record, so they have to come up with diversions to try to bolster their position for November.
And building on that point, the Biden campaign has been very adamant about painting this as an election about a referendum on President Trump, but specifically when it comes to the coronavirus pandemic. We've heard Joe Biden numerous times really take aim at the president for that. But a lot of people are saying, too, that it also comes on Congress. I mean, we're waiting, for example, on a coronavirus relief bill, but Democrats are in a rock and a hard place, if you will, because they have to choose either to stimulate this economy going into November or be the ones that say no to the American people when it comes to this economic relief. Is that really the argument that you think Democrats are facing right now?
I do. And I think that you can see the evidence that Nancy Pelosi and the Democrat leadership have performed with all of this. I think that they're in a position where they think they're stronger if there is no relief package, if there is no further action by Congress. Remember, they don't want there to be a lot of fixes. They don't want to be a lot of positive actions. They want to see high unemployment. They want to see things in chaos. They want to see as much trouble as possible between now and November because they think that bolsters their candidate. And that also has put in place another major issue here, and that is one of home and security and safety. And so there's a policy issue that I think the president needs to continue to play up, is how much he prioritizes that home safety issue, because we now have cities across our country that are under fire. We have riots, we have looting, we have all these hostilities. The Democrats are saying nothing about it. They're doing nothing about it. And that is a very big, deep concern for the American voters, and particularly the female voters, because they really like that security. The president needs to capitalize on that.
I think you're exactly right. In fact, we even heard Don Lemon on CNN say last night that the Democratic Party needs to figure out what its message is going to be when it comes to these riots, because right now, this situation is helping President Trump in the polls. They know that President Trump has portrayed himself as the law and order candidate. They know that the Republican Party has been the one as of recently that is really supportive of police during these times. And that speaks into exactly what you're talking about right now, about the idea of security when it comes to these neighborhoods that a lot of Americans really want. That's generally what they want to begin with. Security, those kitchen table type of ideas, the ideas that put economic prosperity back in their wallets a little bit. So when we talk about this upcoming race, it's President Trump on the top of the ticket, which is different than back in 2018 when Democrats took control of the lower chamber. So if Republicans were to take back the lower chamber, what would that legislative agenda look like?
Well, we would be addressing the things that are the most important to the American people. Remember, we've not done any significant immigration reform. We have not done any significant health care reform. We're not addressing the things that are the most important right now. We haven't got border security solved. And so those are things that need to be dealt with, that the Speaker clearly has off the table. We have to rebuild an economy, but that's the president's stronghold. He's very good on the economy. He needs to stay with that message. He's got the people's confidence there. He needs to remind them that he is the immigration reform president, that he's very concerned about border security, that he is that safety and security president. If he does those three things, and frankly, I think that's going to be the primary messaging and that'll be the primary actions from the Republican Party, those are the winning combination, I believe, for this next election.
No, and I think that if they lay out the argument like you just did and say that it's about putting the American people first, whether it's security, economics, even immigration, that is something, too, that is still very important to the American people, as you bring up, but hasn't gotten the same type of talking points as of recently because of the coronavirus pandemic and the fact that because of that, the border has been shut down, and that emergency that we once had where there was 100,000 illegal immigrants coming over the border every single day, that's been curbed for the time being. And I think that comes as good news for a lot of Americans, as you were saying. But Representative Russ Fulcher, I can't thank you enough for coming on tonight, making some time for us, and breaking down what is happening at this convention. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.